Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for another video. I'm here to share with you my 4-month postpartum update. Little Jakey here is needing all the cuddles today, so he's going to join us for this video too. But I did want to jump on and just share with you how I've been feeling, what's been going on, and how my recovery was after birth. Clearly I have a frog in my throat today, which is not great for filming, but it is one of the last days I have to film before Samuel goes on school holidays. So we're going to try and get through this as quickly as we can. So I'm going to start off with the physical side of healing first, and then I'm going to jump into the mental side and obviously breastfeeding and things like that. In terms of physical healing, this birth was so different to the other boys' births. So if this is your first time joining us, welcome. I'm Tammie. I make mummy and lifestyle content here on YouTube. I am a mum of 3 boys. I have 2 here living with me on earth and 1 in heaven. I have Samuel, who is 5, Jackson, who was stillborn in 2015. He'd be almost 3 now, you guys. Like, I can't even believe it's been that long. And then Jakey here, who is 4 months old, and I just feel like the more babies you have, the faster time flies. It's honestly going so fast. In terms of healing, every birth has been so different. With Jackson obviously being born at 21 weeks, there wasn't a lot of physical healing to be had afterwards. The post-birth cramps were uncomfortable, but it was bearable. I think I was more in a daze and more struggling mentally, so I wasn't able to really fully grasp how I was feeling post-birth. And then with Samuel, he was my firstborn. He was born at 32 weeks without an epidural. I had tearing with him. I needed 4 stitches and I lost 1 litre of blood. So those 2 births were very different. In terms of cramping with Samuel, I honestly don't really recall a whole lot of it. Again, he was my first baby. I was more concerned about where he was, who was looking after him. He was in a hospital. I knew he would be safe, but at the same time I did not know the people caring for him at all, and it made me really sad and uncomfortable that his mum, couldn't take care of him the way that other mums got to take care of their babies when they were first born. So yeah, definitely a lot of differences. This time round I was fortunate that I didn't tear at all. I ended up having an epidural. I think just after my epidural, I'm trying to remember now because it has been a while, but I had the doctors come in and say that they were going to need to give me a C-section because baby was sunny side up and both of our heart rates were elevated. We were able to get our heart rates down, so I was able to give birth naturally. He was born sunny side up, and yeah, like I said, I was fortunate that I didn't tear. I had a couple of small grazes, but nothing major. So in terms of that first afterbirth wee and things like that, there was a little bit of stinging, but it was definitely better than my afterbirth with Samuel. I did have a catheter in this time round though, and that I feel caused a lot of issues that lasted a few weeks, even probably a couple of months to be honest. I had a lot of discomfort at the front of my vagina. Yeah, I'm putting that down to the catheter. There's no other real explanation. So that was a bit weird. That was a bit different. And then I guess the post-birth contractions this time round were horrendous. That was probably one of the biggest things that I noticed. I know that most people say that the more babies they have, the worse the post-birth contractions can get. They were pretty bad. So for those people that have 19 babies, I feel for you, mate. Like, I really do. I don't know how you do it. What else is there? Oh, back pain. So like I said, this time around I did have an epidural. To be honest, if I was lucky enough to have another baby, I think I'm going to try and do it without an epidural. Partly because they essentially turned the damn thing off and stopped giving me the drugs. Like, before I was going to push and I had to push, and I felt the whole push process, which I thought was the whole point of having the damn epidural in the first place, which definitely was not the case for me. And partly because the post-birth back pain, I was just shocked at how much back pain I would have, and I'm still having now. I felt incredibly weak after I had Jakey, and I think that's something different this time. I don't know if that was more from me having the epidural or what really, but the post-birth back pain, like I was very weak, you guys. I could lift Sam and carry him and cuddle him the day before I gave birth, no problems at all. Afterwards, I could barely pick him up. My back felt so weak, like my core felt so weak that I had no strength. I could barely pick him up. I really struggled, and even when I did pick him up, I thought I was going to drop him. So that was a bit of a struggle. Again, that comes into the mental side of things. I felt really guilty as a mum that I couldn't care for him the way I had. The other thing that kind of goes hand in hand with the back pain is hip pain, and that is something that I'm struggling with even now. I feel like I need to go to a chiropractor. I feel like something's not quite right. Something moved when I was giving birth, and occasionally when I go to stand up, it's like a sharp pain where my leg joins my hip, and it's mainly just on my right side. That has been quite painful, and I guess there is a part of me that worries that my leg's going to give way underneath me while I'm holding Jakey. It hasn't yet, but that is just one of those things that has been bothering me pre-birth. Another thing that I wanted to note was the swelling in my feet. I think they call it edema. That did not go down for like 2 weeks. I still couldn't wear shoes for 2 weeks after birth, and I was shocked about that. I honestly thought that that would have been one of the first things to go back to normal, that all the fluid that had built up in my feet would go away, but it took 2 weeks for that to go away, which to me was crazy. So if that's happened to you, let me know in the comments how long the swelling took to go down. Is that normal? I've got no idea, but it did take 2 weeks for mine to go down. And then I guess the last sort of thing that I noticed post-birth physically was dry skin. So I had incredibly dry skin after birth. In fact, I've still got it now. I have never in my life encountered dry skin like this. It was so bad and so painful and so itchy. I literally had scales. I've never experienced that before in my life. It was disgusting, and it was in weird patches all over my skin. So on the backs of my shoulders, on my arms. I still have very dry arms and legs, and elbows. The elbows are borderline cracking sometimes, so that is something that I've got to really be mindful of even 4 months later, and that's something I didn't deal with pre-birth. So yeah, it's incredible how your body changes after birth. I was not aware that this sort of things happen. In terms of hair loss, that didn't really start happening until probably just the last month or so. So 3 months post-birth did I start having hair loss. But even then, it's not as bad as the dry skin. The dry skin has probably been one of the worst things since giving birth, and it still hasn't gone away. So I'm hoping that once my hormones level out a little bit, that will be rectified. Otherwise, gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do. As for mentally, this time around, I feel like I probably should have hired a doula. I don't even know if we have them here in Australia. It's something that I need to look up for next time, because it's something that I wish that I'd had somebody there to advocate for me and to get my wishes across. In the heat of the moment, Matt, I guess, was just as confused as me. He didn't really know what was going on. They put Jakey on my chest when he was born, and he latched straight away, and I thought I was going to get my hour of cuddle time, which is something that I requested. But what feels like just a couple of minutes after he latched, they literally snatched him off of me and took him over to a bed on the other side of the room. It wasn't even next to my bed. I couldn't see him. I wish I had somebody there to just ask the questions like, is this necessary? Do you have to take him away? Can he just stay with her? Because I don't know the answers to that. I feel like Matt was probably the same as me in this situation, where in hindsight it would have been good for him to speak up and ask those questions. He didn't really know what was going on either. My birth plan was to nurse him for the first hour and just cuddle him, and that was taken away, and I think the whole post-traumatic stress came out in that point, and I kind of went blank. Yeah, I don't even know what really happened. It was just incredibly stressful for me. I feel like it was stressful on Jakey too. After they did that, the midwife came over and milked me like a cow, which I could understand for Samuel's birth. He was born at 32 weeks and they had to take him straight to the NICU, but Jakey seemed fine to me, and I feel like if they just let him latch on, he would have got what he needed from me by himself, rather than having that happen, if that makes sense. I don't even know if I'm making sense, but those sorts of things really, really affected me. I didn't think having him go to the NICU would affect me as much as it did, but it really did. And then obviously the whole COVID thing as well, not having that support person stay with me in the hospital. Matt ended up having to leave. I want to say he left the hospital about 4:30, 5 o'clock to come home to Sam, because my father-in-law was here looking after him. So he had to come home and look after Sam, and obviously with COVID he couldn't bring Sam back into the hospital to be with me. So they took Jakey away, Matt left. I was literally all alone in a hospital room with babies crying all around me. It was horrible. It was really, really horrible. And as much as I want to have more babies, I really don't want to go through that again. So I think, yeah, next time round, if I'm lucky enough to carry a baby to viability, I think that I would try really hard to have somebody else other than just Matt in the room with me. And it's not something that I'm overly confident about or comfortable with. But I think just having somebody that is strong enough to stand up and ask those questions would really help me, knowing that that was the only way. I guess I could deal with that, but yeah, I guess for me, I didn't think that that was the only way, and I thought that it would have been better for Jakey just to stay on my chest and get the warmth from my body rather than be put under lights, and get the milk straight from my breast rather than expressing it and having it fed to him in a tube. So yeah, that was probably me mentally postpartum. A lot of my worries come down to post-traumatic stress though, and what we've been through in the past. But that kind of hopefully will give you a bit of an explanation of where I've been at and why it's been hard for me to stick to a schedule on YouTube, and why it was hard for me to film post-birth. Like, I didn't even get to capture his first 24 hours on camera, and that just, it's not the end of the world, but at the same time it still makes me sad because that was my goal. But that is pretty much how I felt straight after birth. I feel like I've handled things a lot better since. I still have my moments. I have had my moments where I've felt really isolated and down and low, and then I've had my really high up highs as well. And I think that that's just something that comes with being a new mum. I'm very open with how I'm feeling with Matt, and we discuss it quite a bit. Obviously he was really concerned with how I would cope post-birth after everything that we've been through, so he's been very, very supportive. And I'm really fortunate to have a great friend in Taylor, just checking in on me and making sure I'm okay. She's been wonderful too. But I have felt fairly isolated post-birth, and again, this is thanks to COVID. There's been no mums groups or anything out there, so for all of you other mums that have given birth recently that are in the same boat as me, you're not alone. It is very isolating, and that has been a big struggle for me as well. But a lot of the isolation falls on me though. It's me not making plans, it's me not sticking to plans, it's me cancelling plans. I guess social anxiety after you have a baby plays a bit of a part of it, but yeah, I'm gonna try my best over the next couple of months to get out and be more social. I went and saw Taylor yesterday, and oh guys, it was the first time I've seen a friend in, I want to say, almost 2 months, and I didn't realize how much I needed it, but it was so good. And she is so good with my babies, and I'm so thankful to have her. Oh my god, I'm a blubbering mess. I'm so thankful to have her in my life, but also in my kids' life. To have somebody that loves them as much as she does is wonderful. And it's just unfortunate that our own family don't love our kids as much as she does, but for them to have her and her kids and Romney in their life is such a blessing, and I'm so thankful for them every day. Another person that has helped postpartum for me is a beautiful friend of ours, Trish from America. It's hard having friends internationally. She is a friend that's been following my channel for a while, that we've built up a friendship through just messaging each other, especially middle of the night chats. It's definitely easier to communicate when one person is awake during the night, and at the moment I am definitely awake during the night. So having her to sort of vent to and just communicate with and feel like I have a connection to the outside world, that has definitely helped as well. But I know that I'm a blubbering mess, and I probably seem like I'm not doing that well mentally, but apart from those things, I feel like I'm coping really well. I feel so happy and so lucky and so grateful to have my boys after everything we've been through. I'm cherishing every moment. I really am. The last thing that I wanted to mention in this update was my breastfeeding journey. Like I said before, Jakey latched on straight after birth, and let me just tell you something, he has not delatched since. He is a chunky monkey. He is such a good breastfeeder. I'm so proud of myself. We've made it 4 months so far. My goal is to get to at least 12 months, which is something that I did with Samuel. So 12 months corrected, not actual, so it'll be 13 months with him. That is my goal. I managed to get to 14 months actual with Samuel, and that was such a blessing. The only reason I stopped breastfeeding was because I actually contracted viral meningitis and ended up in hospital for 4 days, and in that 4 days he stopped breastfeeding. He weaned himself. So I hope that that's not the case this time. I do want to get pregnant again. I think Matt is very aware of this. Matt, maybe not so much, but I definitely feel like there is another baby in the cards and our family isn't complete yet. So I really hope that that is something that we're able to have in the near future. I didn't get my period back after having Samuel for the whole 14 months. I think 15 months my period came back. With Jackson, it came back very, very quickly. So I think for me, I'm going to have to stop breastfeeding before I can get pregnant again. So unfortunately, unless a miracle happens, I don't see another baby on the cards in the next year. But hopefully, hopefully not too distant future, we'll have another baby. And that is pretty much it for this update. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This little munchkin is hungry again, huh? You hungry? We can go feed you and have a cuddle. And I will see you guys in our next update. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.